Welcome back to the SEN WA studio. We're out here at Optus Stadium. We're building to a top of 23 degrees later in the day. I have a special guest in the studio. He's a man who's been on an endless search for the longest job title he can possibly find. He used to be the Executive General Manager of Football, Talent Strategy and Special Projects at Fremantle. He is now the Executive Manager of Performance Pathways and Development at WA Football. Peter Bell joins me. Belly, welcome.
G'day, Duff. Little man, big title. That's what I'm looking for.
Yep, it's good.
Compensation.
Are you going to have like something on top of your head to make you look taller, are you?
Take whatever I can get.
Welcome.
Yeah.
It's an interesting job you've got, and I think it's an important job in WA footy. Tell us, how's it been going so far?
Yeah, it's been going well. Just understanding the ecosystem, if you like, and it's off the back of a review that WA Football did in 2024, and that is primarily around ensuring that the talent pool is deep and that people from all different backgrounds, boys and girls, no matter where they grow up, no matter what their cultural background is, have the best opportunity to reach the highest level of football. So that's a pretty basic summary, and it is and has been challenging, particularly post-COVID, to provide those opportunities in regional and remote areas, and we're trying to bridge that gap so that there's more representation from all over Western Australia, whether that's at the upper levels of the waffle competition or ultimately onto AFL and AFLW. That's the goal.
So what's the problem been? Are we seeing the talent but not procuring it? Are we procuring the talent but not developing it? Or are we just not seeing the talent, you think?
I think the talent's there, and I think our team's been developing the talent as best as resources would allow, and by that, perhaps it favours those people who are in metropolitan areas, those people who have grown up in inner city suburbs, some of the players who are fortunate enough to go to private schools, get a lot more coaching and high-performance education, all those sorts of things. So if we can increase the resourcing, i.e. money, we can offer those opportunities for more kids in Western Australia, and that's one of the things we're trying to address.
I know that there was the WA Footy was seeking funding from the AFL. Was that funding forthcoming, and have you been able to resource the project as you would like?
Those conversations are ongoing, so there haven't been firm commitments as yet from the AFL and some other stakeholders as well, but they're ongoing and looking positive. These things take a bit of time. I'm getting anxious. There's lots of things I'd love to be able to do with the team and to deliver some outcomes for WA Footy, but you've got to go through your process as well.
Who is in your team, Belly? Who are you working with?
On the male side, Adam Jones, talent coordinator, Mark Webb's obviously the senior coach, and Trent Cooper, Bo McDonald, Ellie Lampkin in the female side, as well as lots of other people, so assistant coaches, wellbeing. It's a pretty lean operation when you consider the size of what we're trying to do, the size of the state as well. We rely very heavily on the Waffle and Waffle W operations for a lot of talent ID, to develop talent as well. We have 16s girls, 16s boys, 18s boys, 18s girls as the programs that we're running, but we also run them almost 12 months of the year now to try and bridge that gap on some of the Coates League operations, for example, in Victoria, that are better resourced than what we are. So we're trying to make do and just develop with every window of opportunity that we can get. We want access to our players to help develop them.
You went regional, didn't you, a couple of weekends ago? You went up, I think, into the Pilbara, was it? And had a look up there. What did you see up there?
Saw a lot of really young, fit kids who love being outdoors. That's what I noticed about the Pilbara. The sport is the lifeblood of the community, which you would remember growing up in the country as well. A lot of young families in the Pilbara going there for the job opportunities, but I just noticed there's kids on bikes everywhere around town. They're heavily involved in football, basketball, soccer, whatever it was, and they just looked really fit. So that's exciting, and we have to make sure that as a sport, Australian rules, there needs to be good coaching, good pathways up there, and support for the volunteers in that region, just like all the others. And it's great to be up there. I've had the opportunity also to head down to Albany. I've been to Narrogin a couple of weeks ago as well, Margaret River, hoping to get up to the Kimberley soon, and Geraldton and Kalgoorlie and all the regions as soon as I can. But that in itself takes money as well, so you're always really conscious of what is the cost of every little thing you're doing. Is this the best use of our money? And that's one thing that it's taken the AFL a little bit of time to understand, to service the state properly in itself, just through travel and accommodation. is wildly expensive.
Yep.
And so we're having conversation with state government as well, and there feels like there's a desire to for them to assist as well. So we'll see where that ends up.
I know how that works firsthand. I know when I was working at the West Australian, we'd have people in bureaus up north, and the chief of staff would ring somebody who was, say, in Karratha, and they'd say, "Oh, something has happened at Fitzroy Crossing. We need you to go up there," and they would say, "Go and get your map and have a look at it, and just understand how far that is."
So the distance is one thing, but if you send some of our talent team out to the regions as well, and people know this, the cost of accommodation, for example, is prohibitively expensive, and that's just supply demand. So you're trying to watch every dollar, and you think, if we're going to send 2 or 3 people up to Broome or the Pilbara or whatever it is, airfares, accommodation, it gets up there pretty quick. So you've just got to make sure that your visits are high impact for the money that you're spending.
Is it possible that we'll be looking at sort of academies in those places, in the more remote places? Is that how you'd look at, like a boys and girls football academy up there, so that you get a centralised point where you can develop the talent?
That's certainly some of the philosophy and some of the ideas, in that could we bridge the gap between being 4 or 5 hours away from a town like Karratha or Broome, or from Esperance to Albany, could you have something in the region to bridge that gap, so that you're not necessarily going from that town all the way to Perth in one go? So you're going to somewhere that's closer to your family, closer to your home, through your really important years, 13 to 16, for example, and you're accessing similar sorts of coaching as to what boys and girls in the metro areas would be getting if they're in the talent pathways. So that's one of the ideas, but as I've just articulated, that's going to be expensive as well. But that's certainly something we're exploring, and we'd love to be able to deliver in the regions.
Albany's an interesting one, isn't it? Because Daryl Panizza has done a lot of work down there on behalf of Claremont. When you looked at that, was there an element of, okay, this is what can be achieved if you get a really active, sort of local infrastructure going, and they're able to identify talent? And
you've nailed the key part, and that is local active community supporting it. And Dollar's done a great job with the Storm, with Claremont as well down at Albany. So they've been able to get the support of the community, and so that's certainly a template that we'd love to roll out. And indeed, I know that Subi are doing something similar in Kalgoorlie as well. So everyone's sharing information and learning off each other. It's incumbent on us, as best as we possibly can, to support those volunteers in the community, and most of them are volunteers who are doing a great job. So that's certainly something we're looking at closely, Duff.
I was talking to a mate of mine who used to live in Collie, and Collie used to have 2 really strong Southwest Football League teams in a really strong country football competition. Now they have 1 team, and it's at the bottom of the ladder and has been for a number of years. How do you counteract the drain, if you like, that happens in a lot of country towns now, and make sure that if there is 1, 2 or 3 good kids there, be them, a couple of boys and a girl or a couple of girls and a boy, that we still don't lose them to the sport, because the sport is dying in their town? Yeah,
it's a great point, and it's quite complex as well. So that's the other part of this role. Although you've probably heard me talk this morning, and it's all focusing on the pointy end, it's also really important that we're developing the pool at the identification, so making sure that kids have opportunities to even try football to begin with, and then keep them engaged in whatever town they're in, or the city as well. And that comes down to supporting volunteers, making sure that mums and dads who are putting their hands up to coach are getting supported with coaching curriculum, and just aren't thrown in the deep end, throwing a whistle and a notepad and say, go and look after this team of under-13s. Because if they aren't supported, it's not an enjoyable experience for the boys and girls. Perhaps other sports become more attractive, like basketball or soccer, for example, and then you lose them from the sport. Now, holistically, if they're playing sport, that's a great thing, but clearly I'm here to support Australian rules footy. So there's some of the things that we need to make sure are happening. Again, that volunteers are really supported with coaching, education, and other such things. 2
results from the weekend that are interesting, and I wanted to get your thoughts on them. 1, WA beat South Australia at Adelaide Oval, obviously in a second tier, what's basically a second tier interstate match. And 2, the state 21s gave the state 18s a bit of a touch-up.
Yeah, we'll start with the second one. It was a touch-up, and you have those games from an 18s perspective to get feedback. And I don't mind admitting we got too much feedback. So plenty of feedback. So there's a few things here. The corresponding game last year was a narrower margin, but I think the 18s kicked 6-1 in the last quarter to narrow it to sort of a 5 or 6 goal margin.
Yeah.
21 to 18 is a massive gap in development, physical maturity. Some of the players that are playing are seasoned waffle players. And I'll give you an example. We had a couple of players who are underages in our team, more than a couple. So they're yet to turn 17, playing against waffle players who are about to turn 22.
Yeah.
So we might have to look at that, because whilst we want to challenge and we will really want to test our young players, maybe that gap's too great. But we're also trying to balance, and we'll probably get to talk about this, providing opportunities for waffle players to press their claims for the mid-season draft, for example. So they're the competing interests we're trying to balance. Maybe we're asking a little bit too much of our 18s players. You know, the margin was close to 100 points. Having said that, we want it to be tough. We want it to be challenging. And they certainly got that challenge. The problem was, which is not new to football, is that in the end, our 18s team couldn't get the contest right. And if you can't get the contest right, everything unravels. Structure, everything you're trying to do, you become very insular. You go into your shell, you just try and beat your opponent. And seasoned waffle players are too good. They were just really, really good. The other part that we're looking at, the same weekend we have our camp as well. So our players were down at Woodman Point the night before, sleeping in a dormitory to try and simulate, okay, you're going to be away soon, so in a hotel, sharing a room, and then you're going to be expected to get up and compete. So we want to give them that opportunity as well. So there is a lot of reasons why they might not have been at their best on that particular day. We expected them to be better, and that's a great learning experience for us. So we'll review, like the AFL clubs do, really, really hard tonight. Players will go through their individual reviews from the game and how it felt, and particularly against a really physical opposition. So we might look at a few things around eligibility for that game just to try and balance it up a little more. But we're not going to shy away also from giving them a tough ask, because footy's tough, and we think that that's an opportunity for growth. On the other part of it, Duff, is the state game. That's a great result for WA. It's been a while since we've been able to get the edge on South Australia. I'm a big believer in the strength of the waffle competition, so well done to Adam Reid and the team for getting over there and getting the job done. And hopefully maybe one or two of those players could get an opportunity, because I think between those both games, there'll be some waffle players that'll be really heavily looked at ahead of the mid-season draft.
What do you think of the mid-season draft? I spoke off the top. I'm not a fan. I understand what it does, and I understand the good in that. I just worry about how it affects and impacts the stability and the integrity of the second tier. Give us your thoughts overall.
I'm with you, so I'm probably on the fence on this one. My general philosophy is any opportunity for any young person to reach the highest levels of competition is a good thing. But I really do feel for the second tier competitions, if you're competing for a premiership and you're right up the top, you've got your list management right, you've got your culture right, your coaching's going well, and then you lose your two best players, I do feel, I really do. Perhaps as a consolation of sorts, the Waffle Club, as it were in this case, could be compensated a bit more financially than what they currently are. It's a soft landing, I suppose. Okay, we're losing player X, but we're actually getting quite a bit of money that will be really useful to us. The other part is, I suppose, if you become known as an environment and a club that can produce players in the mid-season draft, then it becomes an attractive place to be. So it helps your recruiting for the year after. So, I know I'm sitting on the fence there. I can see the criticism of it big time. And you do feel for those second-tier clubs that lose their best player. But bigger picture, if it provides an opportunity to get into the AFL, that's great. Don't like when a player goes in or moves into state and then they're gone 3 or 4 months later. Don't like that part of it. So I'd encourage players to try and get that 18-month contract that is available and try and have a club to commit to you that way. But I know that players will just take whatever opportunity they can get, so it's a bit of a tough one.
Mid-season trading as opposed to drafting from an AFL perspective, do you have a view?
A very West Australian-centric view, and that is that I think it's a disadvantage, the mid-season trading, and I'll give you an example of why. If West Coast or Fremantle just needed a key back, and there were clubs in Victoria that also needed a key back, and the key back, the best one who's outside the AFL, is located in Victoria at that time and has a family and kids in primary school, where do you think that player's more likely to go?
Yeah.
Don't have to take your kids out of school, don't have to move into-state. Well, I'm going to choose to go down the road rather than go across to Western Australia. From a mid-season trade perspective, obviously that would mean they're already on a list. So, it's easier to just move suburbs rather than states. So I think that is a disadvantage for WA clubs.
Could talk to you for hours, Bally, but one last question before I let you go. You've been in the system, you've been in the media, and now you're in sort of a state administration. What's the view like from where you sit now? Do you miss the cut and thrust of being inside an AFL club?
Didn't miss.
I'm assuming you don't miss the media, even though you still have your toe in the water.
Didn't miss being involved at the club after a bad loss, of course, but you miss the competition. There's nothing quite like it. So it's a unbelievable experience and environment to be a part of, and helping young people grow, which is kind of still what I'm doing, or very much what I'm doing now. But yeah, the elite level competition, that feeling when the plans come together, you've executed it well, and people are really proud of what the team's put out there. You miss that drug, as it were. So yeah, who knows what the future holds, but you still watch a lot of footy, and still very strongly supporting Fremantle and West Coast and the WA talent pathways.
Enjoying it? Enjoying what you're doing?
Yeah. Like I said, one of the big things that has driven me in sort of the post-playing career has been watching people grow and thrive. And right now to be dealing with younger people again, boys and girls, some as young as 14, 15, just watching them develop, it's hard not to get really enthusiastic and excited about what's possible for some of these young players. And there's a lot of talent coming through. So to be able to have a tangible impact on that talent is a really blessed position to be in.
Bally, always a pleasure to talk to you. Such a great mind, I think, talking about football after such a great career. And if you're still searching for that longer title, mate, you still are the honorary cultural ambassador for the development and enhancement of Korean football. So congratulations.
Very good, I like that one. Get the business card made up.
We'll be back with more after the news.